They give you the title on Tuesday. Nobody mentioned that the rest of you needs 6 months to arrive. Here is the direct answer to the question in the title. Leading former peers is the hardest part of a promotion because authority arrives before preparation. And because the room has to grant something that no announcement can hand over. The title is a decision made above you. The authority is a decision made about you by the people who used to sit beside you, and it gets made slowly. Welcome to the AI Cafe Conversation. I'm Sahar Andrade. This is the Friday Forbes article, and this podcast is where the neuroscience of pressure meets the future of leadership. Everything I share came from my experience and my opinion as a coach. It's not a diagnosis, it's not a fact about you. You decide what fits. This is the shorter, more practical companion to Wednesday conversation, 15 minutes, 3 moves, and one thing I want you to stop doing this week. Start what actually changed Tuesday. And why does a promotion often feel like less capability and not more? Because the work did not change, the relationships did. People who traded honest complaints with you on Thursday now watch what they say around you on Monday. Friendship got converted into hierarchy, and neither side signed the paperwork. And there is almost never any direction from above. The pattern I hear most often from newly promoted leaders is some version of this 6 weeks in, former peers now reporting to me. No support from anyone senior, and a set of problems I inherited that I'm not allowed to say I inherited. The last part is the load nobody talks about, not the problems, the prohibition on naming them. A new leader is expected to absorb an inherited mess and present it as if it were a plan. There is a second gap running alongside the first, and it's quite. The title changed on Tuesday. The identity has not caught up by Friday. Everyone else updates instantly. The organizational chart, the email signature, the room, the way people phrase a question in the hallway. The person in the chair updates on a much slower clock because identity is built from evidence and there has not been time to gather any yet. So a new leader spends the first weeks projecting a confidence the room assumes they already have, while privately holding an uncertainty nobody has asked about. The distance between those two things is the whole job in month 1. So the day fills with absorption, questions, approvals, escalations, the admin that arrives with the title. Leaders describe drowning in that and then being told they are now the leader. The work they were promoted for excellence in is the work they no longer get to do. Now, add that is new in 2026 because the modern promotion does not arrive alone. It arrives with an AI mandate attached. New leaders inherit tools they did not choose, an adoption expectation they did not set, and a team that is quietly anxious about what those tools mean for their jobs. All of it lands inside the same window as the title. Gartner surveyed 1,973 managers and reported in March 2026 that only 14% said they faced no challenges driving effective AI use across their team. 14%, which means roughly 6 in 7 managers are carrying friction there, and the newest ones are carrying it without a single cycle of experience to draw on. And the team is watching. In its 2026 survey of 3,000 American managers, Beautiful.ai found 72% of managers believe that employees fear AI tools will make them less valuable at work. So a new leader is not just learning a role, they are being asked to be the calm face on a change they have not finished understanding for people who used to be peers and who now read that face for the honest answer. That is not a technology problem. That is authority being tested in the exact window where it is least established. So what's it actually happening under that? One mechanism, and it explains more of this than anything else. Threat detection in the human brain does not distinguish neatly between a physical danger and a social danger. The amygdala, our threat center, which decades of well-established threat detection research place at the center of the early alarm response, is involved in flagging a threat to standing among one's own group. Not only a threat to the body, but exclusion, loss of belonging, being evaluated by a group you were part of. These registered as real, and they register early before deliberate thought catches up. Now, put a new leader in a room of former peers. Every meeting is a group evaluation. Every silence has to be interpreted. Every push back carries an extra question underneath it. Is that about the idea or about me being in this chain? Under that kind of alarm, two things narrow: the range of responses available in the moment and access to the slower thinking that good judgment depends on. That is why capable people who were promoted for their judgment sometimes make the worst calls in the first quarter. Nothing about their judgment changed. The conditions it operates under did. This is where the visible signal shows up. The voice tightens on the first hard sentence. The breath goes shallow before the confrontation. The pause runs a bit too long, and everyone in the room notices it. And the leader knows they noticed. And here is the part that surprises people. Everyone in that room is running their own version of the same alarm. The former peer wondering whether the friendship survives. The person who wanted the job, the team member wondering what the tools mean the role is next. In my experience, most first quarter conflict is two alarm systems having a conversation and both parties believing they are discussing the topic. So what does the gap cost in the first 6 months? Actually, three costs. And the first one is structural. The organization believes that the new leader is ready. The team does not experience it that way. Acorn's 2026 State of Learning for AI Fluency report, surveying more than 1,200 professionals, found that 77% of executives believe their managers are prepared to guide AI skills development, while 91% of employees say their managers lack that preparation. Read those numbers or listen to those numbers as one sentence. The people who promoted the leader think the gap is closed. The people being led think it's wide open. And the leader stands between those two beliefs with nobody naming the distance. The second cost is silence. A new leader who cannot admit they were handed a problem also cannot ask for what they need. So the request never gets made, the support never arrives, and the absence of support gets read upward as competence. Watch how that plays out in practice. A new leader hits a problem in week 3 that has an obvious solution. And the obvious solution is one question to somebody senior. The question does not get asked because asking it feels like evidence for the thing they are afraid the promotion revealed. So a 2-minute conversation becomes a 3-week detour. And the detour gets absorbed into the same overloaded week that produced it. Multiply that by a quarter, and you have a leader who is working significantly harder than the role requires, and an organization that treats the extra hours as commitment. The third cost lands on the team. When authority is uncertain and unspoken, people stop bringing the difficult conversation and difficult information, not out of disloyalty, because they cannot predict how it will end, and unpredictability makes people cautious. So the leader gets a slightly cleaner version of reality every week and makes decisions on it. 6 months in, the number that shows up on a dashboard is turnover or missed delivery. The number that never shows up anywhere is how long the room took to grant authority nobody was allowed to discuss. So, what works instead? 3 moves, all of them are things a new leader can do in week 1 without anyone's permission. Move 1, name the transition once, out loud, and never again. 1 sentence to the team, early. Our working relationship is changing. I'm going to get some of this wrong. And I would rather hear it from you than find it later. Then stop talking about it and do the job. Said once, it converts an unspoken tension in a stated fact, which is the single fastest way to lower the temperature in a room. Said repeatedly, it becomes a request for reassurance. And a team cannot carry that once, then work. And be precise about what the sentence is not. It's not an apology. It's not a list of everything that you don't know. It's not a promise to be the same person you were as their peer, because that promise cannot be kept and everybody in the room can already tell. It is 1 sentence that says the ground moved and I know it moved. That is all a room needs to stop bracing. The sentence is, our working relationship is changing. I'm going to get some of this wrong. I would rather hear it from you than find it later. Then stop. Move number 2, separate the 2 AI conversations. New leaders lose weeks by merging them. The tool conversation is, here is what we're using, here is what good use looks like, and here is what I'm still learning. The fear conversation is nobody in this room is being replaced by AI tool I'm rolling out. And if that ever changes, you will hear it from me first, not from a room. Run them separately. Merge, the tool conversation gets heard as the fear conversation, and adoption stalls for reasons that have nothing to do with the software. 2 separate AI conversations. Move number 3. Build 1 person outside the reporting line, not a report, not the boss who promoted you, another leader at comparable altitude, ideally in another function, whose only job is to hear the thinking before it becomes a decision. New leaders are the most isolated people in an organization, and isolation is where small uncertainties grow into large ones. 1 honest peer changes the arithmetics more than any course. I see that. I do a lot of PLG groups, which are the peer learning groups for leaders, where from organization, I get cohorts of leaders that work they work for the same organization, different departments, probably they never met each other, and they get into these PLGs I take them for 9 months, and they get to know that they are not alone. And they get to know people in different units where they can use their help as well. It's a great experience, PLGs, peer learning. So, it's not a report, not the boss, another leader in a same position that you are. That is the practical summary. State the change once, split the tool conversation from the fear conversation, and get 1 person who is not in the chain of command. The deeper method I take executive through is BRAIN, and it exists to rebuild access to steady judgment under exactly this kind of role. That is all I will say about it here. Steady before strategy. A first quarter run from a settled place looks nothing like a first quarter run from an alarm. Now the objection, and it's the strongest one in the whole topic. You're thinking, if I tell my team I'm going to get things wrong, I hand them a reason to doubt me. I have just taken this chair. I cannot afford to look like I'm still learning. Here is my answer, and this is not reassurance. They already know. The people who work beside you know exactly what you have done before and what you have not. The uncertainty is not a secret you're keeping. It's a fact everyone in the room can see. And the only question on the table is whether you are someone who can look at facts out loud. That is what a room grants authority for, not for having no gap, for being reliable about reality. And on the mechanism, unspoken tension does not stay neutral. When something obvious goes unnamed, people fill the gap with their own worst reading, and the alarm I described stays switched on in everyone. Naming it once removes the ambiguity, and ambiguity is what keeps the alarm running. Silence does not protect authority, it just makes the room guess. One ask once a month, I open a live working session called the Pressure Room for Executives, 45 minutes on Zoom, where leaders work on leading under pressure. One model taught properly, one thing to practice. Session 2 is Thursday, August 27, 11 a.m. Pacific, 45 minutes free. Register at saharandradecom/pressure-room, and I'm going to have the URL here in the podcast notes. If you took the chair recently, do one thing this week. Say the sentence once, then go do the work. Thank you for spending time with me. Leadership does not fail. Nervous system do. Steady before strategy. Before I leave, show me some love. Like, comment, subscribe, share our podcast so more people can listen to us. Appreciate your support. Till I see you next week on Wednesday. Peace out.
1